It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
The boss is back. How's it going, everyone? Don Tony here. It is Sunday, November 5th, 2023. Hope everybody is having a great weekend. I am up here for the latest episode of The Sit Down, and I got to share something with you really funny. This is good. I promise you this is good. Now, you got to keep in mind 22 years ago, 21 years ago, almost 22 years ago, the internet, 56K modem, if anybody remembers that, streaming really wasn't a thing, but, you know, as the years go by, you know, you get better equipment, better graphics, everything overall. So I announced not too long ago that the Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show library, from as early as 2004 to 2020, because that's pretty much the time period that's been offline, it is returning. And only fair, we're leaving it up to our Patreon family to decide what returns first, because honestly, who's left on Patreon for the most part have been with us for the 7 years that we've been on Patreon. So, you know, they definitely have earned the right to choose. So this is good. I got something I'm going to show you. Now, tomorrow, we'll go full blown with this and have some fun. But earlier today, I took out one of my old hard drives that was in one of my computers back in, I would say, 2006. And I don't throw out a lot of things. And I'm kind of glad now that I never threw out I have my TiVo hard drive from 2001 when I recorded Nitro and Raw on my TiVo. And at that time, we recorded ESPN Classic and all this. I still got that hard drive. So glad I never threw it out. So anyway, getting to the point. I pull out one of my old hard drives today, and I spent about an hour looking for the cable to connect it to the computer because I want to pull the old archives for the DTKC show, going back to the Minority Report. I have hotline reports that go as early as 2001, 2000. You know, we've been around a long time. And any of you out there remember our hatred for Maven? It wasn't a personal hatred, but we hated Maven. I could not stand Maven. And back in 2002, when Maven was on my wrestling TV screen, my wrestling screen, I said, you know, we got to do something to throw a little shade Maven's way. And back in 2000, Mark is saying, what did Maven do? He wasn't tough enough. He wasn't tough enough. I just never liked Maven. I thought his eyebrows were too perfect. I thought he was too clean cut. You know, if you want to use 2023 standards, it was almost like you bought The Rock on Wish. There was nothing personal against Maven. I don't dislike him anymore. I'm just telling you 2002. I have no problem with Maven now, but in 2002, we we despised him. So, for the technology, at the time, I created a video game called Maven Invaders. You know, Space Invaders? Well, I created Maven Invaders. I created it right after Tough Enough concluded, and it's been sitting in a hard drive for over 20 years. I found the file today, and I said, you know, I wonder if this would work in a computer, Windows 11. Now, I didn't get a lot of time to really configure this in the computer, but for everyone out there that has video, I welcome you to look at your video screen for a minute. That is Maven Invaders from 2002. And it came complete with a theme song. If I put my mouse on the game, see my mouse? Let it go. Just let it keep going. Keep going. All right. Huh? Oh, that's great, man. The game works. It works. Now, I haven't played it in 20 years, over 20 years. But just to give you an idea what my game was back in 2002, on the screen right now, for a few seconds, we're going to play Maven Invaders. I will hit, well, actually, I don't think the F2 works. So I will go to where it says new game. Hold on. We got to blow it up one more time. All right. This was my creation in 2002. Now, how you play is you use the arrows on your keyboard and you use the space bar to shoot. This is, I bring it back, over 21 years later, Maven Invaders. Oh, shit, I died already. Look, it's got the tough enough. Look. It's just like Space Invaders. And it gets harder. It gets harder. Harder. Son of a bitch. Come on, I got to clear one screen. Come on. Come on, let's go. Come on. There we go. People on audio only right now are like, what the hell is he doing, man? What is he doing? Look, Maven Invaders. It'll go all the way down, just like Space Invaders. You die and it's it. Game over. The only thing I never did was I never had like, see, it gets harder. Maven Invaders, everyone. I wonder if he knew back in 2002 we created this. Look, I think I did a pretty damn good job. Don't you think? Seriously. All right, we done? Are we done? All right, we're done. See, it even comes with game over. Oh, that's good, man. All right, let's get out of here. Did the sound come across? Oh, I have the high score. Oh, look at that. I forgot to enter my name for the high score. Oh, well. Oh, man, that's good, man. That's good. Let me log off of that. Okay, we're gone. I don't know. There was some program at the time that you could create your own like Space Invaders game. So I hated Maven. I wanted to blow him up. So I had the idea of blowing up Maven heads and just using the tough enough as like the shield. So there you go. Tomorrow for the bigger audience, because obviously the sit down is a more intimate audience. For those that are new on Sundays, what is the sit down? Very simply, I show up with nothing, as you could see. Everybody who is live and who is mingling in the chat room chooses the topics of what we're going to talk about today. You ask the questions. I try to give you the answers as best as I can. As always, super chats not required, but obviously appreciated. It helps pay the bills, and they will always get a little bit of VIP treatment, especially because the chat room could get kind of busy. You know, write question before your question so I could see it quicker. And if I do answer it, wait a little bit before asking another one. This way we could spread it around a little bit. So did anybody send anything before we started live today? Yeah, people are loving the Maven Invaders. It works. I got to see if I can upgrade it for 2023 levels, but I don't hate the guy anymore. I don't hate him. All right, who sent this earlier? Sticky Fingers Frank. All right, he gets the opener for today. Thank you, Sticky, for the 5 spot. DT, of all the current WWE and AEW champions, who will be the next to drop their championship? Whoa, that's actually a little thinking question here. On the AEW side, Hikaru Shida, I almost feel like they're putting this title on her to keep her happy because she's used like shit in AEW. I think Tony Storm, if you don't capitalize on that now, the silent film stuff, a lot of people still, I know I brought it up 10 times already, a lot of people still don't understand where that all came from. You will know soon enough when that movie about, Mildred Burke comes out. Then you'll see it all put together. But, Hikaru Shida, with all due respect, I mean, you see that she just sticks out like a sore thumb, and there's only so many times she could fight Ruby Soho and others. Statlander is, the TBS champion, so she's not going to be facing Shida anytime soon. Shida has a very, very tiny roster to really work with, and I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing the same, template. We've been talking about it way early into Jade Cargill's reign. The template's the same. Female champion wrestles random match. Then somebody random comes down the rampway, calls her out. The week after, you get a promo. And then the week after that, you get a match. And the week after that, you get a hybrid tag team match. And then the week after that, you get a promo. And the week after that, you wrestle some random person. And the week after that, you see it. It's like every couple of weeks, you turn around, oh, look, Willow's getting a shot. Oh, look, Abaddon. Yeah, Abaddon, Halloween. You remember what I said? Hey, let's see Abaddon stay on television now. Not just because it's Halloween, but I think Sheeta is the next one to drop it. On the WWE side, I think, I would have said the women's tag team champions, but Chelsea Green and Piper Niven are starting to warm up on me. I'm digging Piper Niven, even though in the ring she's not very good. She hasn't shown it lately. But I'll stick with the women's tag team champions. So I think the women will be dropping their belts very soon. All right. Let's go to the live chat. Should we do a Sheeta Invaders? Nah, that doesn't flow off the tongue. Maven Invaders was epic at the time. I know I don't get much props, in the podcast scene today. People don't acknowledge, the people from yesteryear, and that's all cool in the gang and everything. But I will tell you that in 2024, Kevin and I are going to remind everyone, who started all this shit. Back when I had wrestling-news.com in 2000, we had the idea, hey, let's put the hotline reports on the internet so the world could tune into it. And that later became webcasts. And I truthfully believe that I am one of the first to ever, not just wrestling, ever have a webcast online, a podcast. We've been uploading shit since 2002, as far as I could go back, and it's documented. So we're getting 2024, we're going to annoy a lot of people out there, and people are going to be reminded that we never left. We might have taken a little DTKC hiatus for a little while, but we're still around. Umar, what's up, Umar? Do I think MJF will be in the WWE in 2024? I just feel he's a big fish in a small pond at this point in AEW. No, I don't see him in WWE in 2024. I think he's already inked a deal with AEW. In fact, I don't want to go off topic, but I see the game that they're starting to play now online about Will Ospreay. And, I like Will Ospreay. I've actually jumped on his train in the last 3 months. And it has nothing to do with the dumb tattoo that he got done. But I just feel that really, like, how is he going to stand out as a WWE personality? You got to think a little bit outside the box. Does Will Ospreay come across as a future WWE entertainer? I don't feel that way. I mean, I could see NXT for a little while, and I think for some people that would be sacrilegious. But as far as MJF goes, understand something. Tony Khan is a billionaire, and Tony Khan is one of those that if somebody puts up an old Ring of Honor banner on eBay and it's worth $1,000 and somebody says, I want 10 grand for it, and Tony Khan wants it that bad, Tony will bid 20 grand on it. Tony Khan has got so much money, and he's got no It's not a publicly traded company. He's got nobody that he has to answer to publicly. He could overpay for MJF tenfold. And who is going to, tell him to do otherwise? I think Tony Khan is going to open, if he hasn't done already, open the fucking bank for AEW to re-sign MJF. I believe he's already re-signed. I think they're just keeping it hush-hush to keep the storyline that he could possibly be the biggest free agent in 2024. You see the problem on TV right now. The storylines are not extremely strong. I got a kick out of Swerve Strickland showing up at Hangman Page's house, but that's not going to make me want to buy Full Gear. It's not going to make me want to tune in the following week. I mean, a lot of their storylines, like Nick Wayne, what the fuck do I care about his mother? What do I care about this? There's so much stuff that it fancies them. Amongst themselves, it's entertaining as fuck, but for the casual wrestling fan, it is not. And MJF is their biggest fish. And if you let him go, who's going to be the biggest fish? Who really? Bryan Danielson until he breaks his fucking wishbone? Unfortunately, Bryan Danielson, because he wants to work so stiff, he's not reckless, but the risk of injury increases. When people used to criticize The Miz, remember all the criticism for The Miz? Oh, you wrestle safe. He had one injury in his career? Hey, you best damn believe he wrestled safe, and he's still doing it to this day. So MJF, I believe, is already signed for AEW for at least another year at minimum. They got to keep him. They absolutely have to keep him. Now, if MJF had a pair of tits and a pee, then I could see the possibility of him being let go, because AEW does not put as much investment in the women's division. I mean, there is, look, it's almost like going to a diner, and I mean this, and trust me, the F word has nothing to do with women, but this is the best way I could describe the women's division in AEW. It's like going to a diner. When you go to the diner, most people go for the eggs, they'll go for the burgers, the fries, the gravy fries. That's the men's division. Once in a blue moon, someone will say, give me the fish. So the fish on the menu is not something that the chef has to go out of his way and cook every single day. But you put fish on the menu because there's always going to be a few people that'll say, give me the fish. That's the women's division in AEW. They're the fish on the menu in a diner. And I feel bad for saying that. Don't get mad at me. I don't run AEW. If I ran AEW, that fucking women's division would have at least 2 matches on Dynamite, maybe even 3. So don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger, interpreting what I see on TV. It's pretty obvious. They're the fish in a diner. They're the tilapia. That's a good one, Josh. They're the tilapia. Do you have tilapia today? Well, let me go check. Gruss is saying, who eats fish for dinner? I got news for you. In my neck of the woods, stuffed clams. Oh, I can't eat them right now because I'm on keto, but stuffed clams, oh my God. And 99% of it is olive oil and breadcrumbs. Have you ever ordered stuffed clams at a diner? I mean, all it is just like a tiny little bit of chopped up clams, but they load it up with breadcrumbs and seasoning and olive oil and even a little butter. It's amazing. Or you get stuffed mushrooms with crab meat inside. It's imitation, but it still tastes good. I'm not a big fish eater either. All right, let's go back to the chat. Dream 101, thank you for the 2-spot. Dream, what if Roman wins at Mania? Roman ain't winning at Mania. Thank you for the super shout out, my friend. Roman is not winning at Mania. Listen, Roman Reigns has earned where he is. But does anybody agree with me when I make this comment? It seems like Roman Reigns is just treading water right now. Just like riding the wave. Like, yes, when he has a match, he puts full effort into it. But then what? Survivor Series, even if he is in War Games, There's 4 other people on the team with him. So he doesn't have to do anywhere near as much. And then what if after that? You know, I mean, this is not the 80s and the 70s where, you know, he should only wrestle like once every 3 months and you get a rare house show appearance. I am getting a little bit tired. And I feel bad for saying this, but I'm telling you as a wrestling fan, longtime wrestling fan, I'm getting tired of Roman Reigns keeping his championship, treading water, and when it does come time to defend the title, there's always bloodline interference because Creative has gotten lazy with that stuff. Because it works, and it worked for a year and a half, they do it every fucking time. In storyline, why is Nick Aldis not out there saying no one could interfere in this match? Contract signing, Jimmy Solo, you're banned from ringside. Nick Aldis, not criticizing Nick Aldis, is not his fault. It's the storyline. Nick Aldis, you know, pushing authority. Didn't do shit about what's going on with the bloodline. Triple H does an interview. Oh, we created the World Heavyweight Championship because Roman Reigns has the stranglehold. What dumb brain-dead moron buys that when it's Triple H and Creative that are the ones that have chosen to use Roman Reigns this sparingly? I'm getting tired of it. He will lose that championship at WrestleMania. It'll be the world's worst kept secret, excuse me. He will absolutely lose it at WrestleMania 40. Who knows? Maybe he'll get injured beforehand. And maybe he'll be forced to relinquish the championship. I don't want him injured. But, you know, selfish me says, you know, Cody has earned the WrestleMania 40 moment. But wouldn't that fucking be funny if Roman Reigns breaks a bone or tears a major muscle before Mania and they're forced to take the title off him because of injury? It's always a possibility, man. I think that's why they use him sparingly. The less they use him, the less of a chance an injury happens. Hollywood Guy. What's up, Hollywood Guy? Hey, Guy. I agree. Roman Reigns needs to lose the title. It's been a long, boring run. He seems weak, and he can't beat anyone by himself. Absolutely agree. You know, you look at Drew McIntyre in Clash at the Castle. Couldn't Sami Zayn have the same storyline? Couldn't Kevin Owens have the same storyline? Couldn't everybody have the same storyline? I mean, the only difference is that, as far as I know, LA Knight, Saudi Arabia is not his hometown. But, you know, Elimination Chamber, wasn't that in Canada? You know, like, there's a lot of people that could use the same storyline. Oh, the bloodline fucked my chance of becoming heavyweight champion. It's old. It's old. And honestly, they are hiding behind John Cena. They are hiding a little bit behind Logan Paul. They are going to hide a little bit by, I think they elevated LA Knight, not just because the fans wanted it, but they realized, oh, yeah, we could just elevate LA Knight. And, you know, the fans will forgive the fact that we're doing the same old shit now with Roman Reigns. It's pretty wild to look back a year and a half and remember a year and a half ago when we talked about the old days of Brock Lesnar. Remember when Brock Lesnar was backstage at Raw, sitting on a couch reading Muscle and Stream or like Hunting and Stream magazine, and like he rarely ever showed up? And then Paul Heyman, as much as I love Paul Heyman, he did that interview and said, Brock Lesnar is like an attraction. He's like Andre the Giant, a special attraction, a special appearance. Like you should only see him once in a while. No, he's the fucking heavyweight champion. What happened to remember the dumb rule? You must defend your championship every 30 days. You know, Nick Aldis looks like a schmuck in storyline for not banning the bloodline from being at ringside. You know, when you put someone with a nice tie, nice suit, clean cut, authority, rules, you know, setting everything straight, and then meanwhile, you're in the back at the Saudi food truck trying to eat some Saudi Arabian Indian food that you never tried. But let me have some halal. You know, where was Nick Aldis yesterday? You, out of here. No, he was in the parking lot eating halal. So this is things that I see, and it gets me mad because, I'm not a child. We invest in a storyline. We cover this. We want it to be better, and WWE can be better. And they fall back on the same lazy stuff. Seriously. I'm not making fun of the food. I just know it's Hallal. I actually tried it once. It's not bad. Halalalala. Halalalala. Tristan Sloan. What are my thoughts on the Vince McMahon and Bob Costas interview? Roid rage at its peak. Vince McMahon was juicing at the time, and I used to know this guy in my neighborhood. His name was Frankie Kane. Spelled with a K, I might add. And, we knew him in the 90s. This is before. That's gotta be Kane. No, this was way before Glenn Jacobs. His name was Frankie Kane, and he was a drug dealer in my neighborhood, Glendale, Queens. And he was a roided up. He was Jersey Shore before Jersey Shore. He was a monster. But you just looked at him the wrong way, and he would set off and just get in there, want to fucking beat up everybody. Confrontation, intimidation, anger, like bloodthirst anger. Vince McMahon, when he went at Bob Costas, I saw that same exact emotion. That is someone that is just totally unhinged. And, listen, give Vince credit for cutting back on those interviews after that. He did, who's the guy from Canada that was, not Peter Rosenberg. Someone will remember. Who's the guy who used to do TSN off the record? He did an interview with Vince years later, and the interview was much, much better. And then ultimately, Vince and Bob Costas, I think, cleared everything up. I can't remember the guy's name from TSN off the record, but, that interview was extremely uncomfortable. Michael Landsberg, thank you, Nixie. Michael Landsberg. That was extremely uncomfortable. And, it was, and here's the thing too. At that time, I was hardcore ECW fan and WWF fan later on. I wasn't rooting for Vince, and I never liked Bob Costas. I was never this big Bob Costas fan. So when Vince was going after him, you would have thought us as wrestling fans, yeah, fuck him up. No, I actually was like ashamed. I was like, what the fuck is up with him? That was scary shit, man. Scary. Shout out to Hollywood Guy. Thank you, Mr. Hollywood, for the 5 spot. One more thing. He's glad that Kairi Sane is back, but the question is, how will she be booked? Will Triple H book her right? Io Sky is booked well? Who knows? It's good that she's on SmackDown, so she's nowhere near Nia Jax. I don't think anybody wants to see the rematch anytime soon. But I'm glad that she is back. I wouldn't have chosen Crown Jewel. But then again, Survivor Series only 3 weeks away. You got to speed up these storylines a little bit. So I'm glad she's back. Now, let me make this clear. The people online that are now claiming their sources tell them that Asuka might be added to the group, that's not news. That's not sources. These are wrestling fans that saw yesterday's Crown Jewel and said, oh, the 2 Japanese women are aligned with each other. So it only makes sense that the 3rd Japanese woman aligns and they become a Japanese faction. That's where they got it from. If they truly had that news, they would have reported it before she made her return at Crown Jewel. They would have reported it before she was in the ring at the same time with Io Sky. Take note that how people never said, when Kairi Sane returns, there's no word yet if she will team up with Asuka or she will feud with Asuka. She will team up with Io Sky and reform the Sky Pirates or feud together. They never said nothing. Soon as they got clarity yesterday, oh, that's where that came from. It is not true. I mean, they could align, all 3 of them. It'd be interesting. I think Bayley, if you heard yesterday's recap and review of what I did, we did a lot of aftermath ideas. And Bayley, it's going to be really interesting. Bayley may have a little bit of jealousy towards Kairi Sane. So you got to tune into yesterday's show for the latest on that. But I think we'll end up being right with that. So Bobby Means, he's got a comment. He feels like we could see Asuka versus Kairi Sane. That would be a dream match. He thinks Saray could be the wild card if she signs with WWE. I don't think Saray is coming back anytime soon. Saray had that run in NXT, and she came out with pigtails. She had some glow-in-the-dark charm. Then she had a grammar school skirt on that brought out a lot of creepos. Then, it never clicked. It never clicked. She's great, Saray. Some of her moves I watched in NXT, and I remember when we did the watch parties before some of the matches, like, I don't think so-and-so has any idea what they're in for next. And she would run to the middle rope and with both knees to the head. I was like, oh, that's awesome. She's great. I just don't see, listen, there's not going to be this gigantic influx of Japanese women coming into WWE. Just like if you notice, WWE is not going out of their way to sign a lot of international talent like they did before. Does anybody remember, like me, about 10 years ago, give or take a couple of years, but about 10 years ago when we all said, wow, seems like WWE is more concerned about signing international talents instead of U.S. talents. It seemed like, and I'm sorry for saying this, and this is going to upset some people, we honestly thought that the only reason why the Iconics was signed because they were from Australia? Like if they came from Kansas, I think they'd probably still be wrestling in Kansas. There was a lot of wrestlers that they were signing. I thought they were signing simply to represent countries and get those countries, to tune in. But it's not as important now as it used to be. I think especially the fact that Mansoor, Mustafa Ali, and a few others were let go, especially right before. Look, they used Shanky for India, and as soon as he was done in India, he was let go. So I think WWE is not focused on signing regional talents from specific countries anymore. I think they feel what they have is good enough, and they come to your country, and they haven't been there in a long time, they're going to sell. That's why you see suddenly they're going to Germany. They're going to Australia. They've been to those countries, but now they're premium live events because Peacock is the number one reason why you're getting premium live events in Australia. Not really Saudi Arabia because that's different, but the UK, you're getting it in Germany. You're going to get it in here and there. And the reason why I say that is because if the pay-per-views were still $50, $60 a pop, and then you're going to stream it live at 2:00 in the morning, that pay-per-view buy rate is going to be quite shitty. So the fact that you pay $9.99 or $4.99, whether it's live at 1 in the afternoon or 1 in the morning, you still pay the same amount of money. And honestly, who is going to complain? You pay $5 for an entire month and, it starts at 10 a.m. I don't want to get up at 10. Well, watch it at fucking 8:00 at night but it's not live. Oh, poor baby, you spent $4.99. If it was $50, it'd be a different story. All right. As you can see, we are trying to cram in as much as we can in as short amount of time. I don't want to overload this show today because tomorrow we got a big day. Tuesday is Patreon. Wednesday night, Dynamite. We're going to get another Q&A together for next Thursday. I'll put up details in the community section. And I put it there. Everybody could see it is because that's the easiest place that anybody tuning in could go to post a question. I don't like doing the email route like I used to because you get 10, 15 people that send similar emails about the same topic. And then you got to kind of pick and choose how you say it. And then somebody gets upset. Oh, you didn't say my email, but I answered your question. It gets a little conflicting. complicated. Clone Force. Cologne Force. May the force be with you. I watched Spaceballs 2 nights ago. Can I get a prayer for my dog Rocky that passed away yesterday morning? Absolutely, man. My dog, when I was younger, my parents had 2 Dobermans. One was a black Doberman and one was a brown Doberman. One's name was Pee-wee and the other name was Rocky. My father had a black Doberman named Rocky. Coolest motherfucker, man. But, you know, I never knew when I was a kid, like how vicious Dobermans would be. Like you watch TV shows and they got like security dogs and they're all Dobermans. And I'm like, nah, Rocky's cool. Pee-wee is cool. But, yeah, no, my thoughts are with you. I mean, I feel bad that you super shouted that. You know, I would have definitely given you love anyway. No refunds, though. But, no, see, I'm just trying to make you laugh. Listen, you know, I talk off and on about my dog that I had put down, 7, 8 years ago. And it's still the hardest thing that I ever did. Seriously. I'm at peace now that my dog, his kidneys were failing. He was in really, really, really poor health. Diabetic. For 5 years, I used to give him insulin at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. every day for about 5 years. It fucked up my sleep, fucked up my health, but I loved my dog too much that I didn't want him. I tried to, ease but it got to the point of no return with him. And I realized towards the end that I was keeping him alive because I didn't want to say goodbye. I don't know how your dog passed. And it's not that I don't want to know, but keep that to yourself. But I will say this. I'm at peace now that my dog is out of his pain. And if your dog had a health issue, know that you gave your dog the best life he could have gotten. That's the one thing that puts a smile on my face from ear to ear that I know I fucking spoil. Honestly, I treated my dog better than I treat my own family. And that is the God honest truth. So I look back and I smile. The only thing though, and I'm not trying to prepare you for something bad, but this goes out to anyone out there that has a pet right now who are very, very attached to them. You can't control your dreams. And that's the thing, even 7, 8 years later, I am tormented to this day. I will dream every so often, and in my dream, my dog is alive, running around, playing with me, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and for a split moment, I feel like my dog is there. And then I realize that it was my dreams. And I feel like I'm tormented over it. I mean, I don't mind saying it. I'm not ashamed of it, but I can tell you at least 4 or 5 times over the last 6, 7 years that my wife shook me and woke me up. And she's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, no, I'm not crying. I have allergies or something. She knows now what the deal is. I'll wake up sometimes crying because it's so real. And it's not. So that's one thing you gotta, get prepared for because, I don't know why that happens, but that's the one thing that still bothers me. But at the end of the day, I used to have so much guilt after putting my dog down. But I realized that he was out of his pain and I gave him the best fucking life. And that's something that everybody needs to prepare themselves for too. You'd be surprised how many people who get dogs and cats and don't let it sink in that they only live to be 12 or 15 years old. Like there's a lot of people that don't really think how short a time that they have. My bird, my African gray is what, 28 years old? Is he 20? I think he's 28 years old. He's still here. But we knew that the lifespan for African grays is somewhere between 20 and 50 years. 28 years old, he's still going. But I'm saying to myself, I start preparing myself that, one day soon, he may no longer be here. So I try to appreciate the days I have with him. But, You got to always be prepared, especially for people that are newer owners of pets. You got to always keep in the back of your mind their lifespan. Because if you don't think about that, that shit will hit you out of nowhere and you'll be like, you won't know how to deal with it. It's fucked up, man. I will tell you the most terrible story, and I shouldn't say it, but I will. You know, this goes out to anybody who's thinking about getting a pet. There's a guy I know. I will never say his name on the show because I always wonder once in a while if he's listening. I mean, he'll know who he is as soon as I tell his story, but he had the same dog I did. Same type of dog. Miniature toy Doberman. This big. And one day about 5-6 years ago, I said to him, I said, how's your dog doing? He says, oh, we had to put him to sleep. And I was like, what happened? And he said, you know, we took him to the vet, and the vet wanted like $5,000 to do something, and we just told him to put the dog to sleep. I wanted to punch him right in the fucking mouth. The way he said it, like he took the dog to the vet, wasn't a life-threatening thing, but the dog needed some type of surgery and wanted 5 G's. And they said, nah, put the dog to sleep. The dog might have been 5 years old, 4 years old. Wanted to punch him right in the mouth, man. So some people, listen, Easter in my neck of the woods back in the day, Easter was a fucked up holiday because you would have pet shops and people would buy rabbits. And I fucking hated when Petland Discount used to sell rabbits at Easter time. One time I was fishing with my friend. I think I told this story once before. One time, me and my friend were fishing at Hempstead Lake State Park. And they'd sell birds, you know, like little ducks. They sell rabbits and ducks for Easter. And we were at Hempstead Lake State Park, and we were fishing, and we hear something in the bushes going, quack, 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 quack. Sounded strange. We go in the bushes, tiny little duck, like this big. I took him home, and I had him in a brown, like, milk box and trying to, like, figure out, like, how to feed him, and I ended up giving him to my neighbor, and supposedly they put him on a farm. But we realized it was about a month after Easter, somebody bought it for someone as a gift for Easter, and then they realized, what the fuck are we going to do with it? And they left it in fucking Hempstead Lake State Park, man. All right. Tristan is asking my favorite WrestleMania of all time. Growing up, the first one, because I was supposed to go and I didn't go because, you know, like at the time, like I was like, you know, they were advertising. One of the reasons why I wanted to go is because of Billy Martin. Billy Martin was my favorite manager of all time. And I've said that repeatedly on these shows over the years. When I heard Billy Martin was going to be there doing it, I wanted to go because I went to garden shows. But then you hear Liberace and you hear others, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't a fan of the A-Team. You know, I wasn't feeling it as much, so I didn't go. But 1 is memorable, 3, 5. You know, the other ones years later, I mean, it really hasn't been a bad one. Yeah, birds could live a very long time. B wants to know, what do I believe is the end game with the NXT North American title? Is it going back to the NXT roster? Or is this a pseudo TV title? No, it's going back to the roster. There's a TV deal being negotiated. That's the number one reason. You know, I know, you know, the media that is very pro AEW will tell you that WWE loaded up 10-10-23 with Cena and Undertaker and all that because they just wanted to kick AEW's ass. And then they're saying like, oh, without those guys. Did Undertaker wrestle anybody? No. Did John Cena wrestle anybody? No. Did Cody Rhodes wrestle anybody? No. Did Asuka? Yes, because she's giving the rub to Roxanne Perez. Even in defeat, Roxanne gets to the next level, you know, showing that she can go. They are working on a TV deal, and they're showing the networks and the streaming services that are vying for WWE Raw and NXT right now that, look, average ratings are now 600,000-700,000. And at any given time, if we need to give NXT a little bit of a boost, we could bring a Dominic Mysterio for 3 months, 4 months. Personally, I love Dominic Mysterio as the North American champion, not just because he's the North American champion, but because Dominic Mysterio is learning on the job. Wasn't even 2 years ago that he was doing the thing with his dad and the fucking father, gets an eye, loses an eye in a dumb fucking match. He gets Seth Rollins or whatever, eye for an eye. You look at Dominic Mysterio from 2 years ago to now, that guy, and give him credit, he's getting paid for it, but he is working multiple dates a week. I heard Jim Cornette and Brian Last, this week's episode, they were talking about something with, like wrestlers, and he said something like, what wrestlers today wrestle even, 2 times a week or 3 times a month? Dominic Mysterio is a great example of that. He is given that little bit of a rub. And anybody on that main roster, there's always going to be someone that is not going to get pushed. You go back to the 90s, you go back to the 2000s, 2010s, and you look at the rosters. At some point, some of our favorites were not being pushed. Right now, some people that we like are not being pushed. Throw them in NXT for a little while. I said this 3 years ago when everybody was saying, oh, Triple H, he's a dunce, that he's being, they're erasing his legacy. Remember that junk? They're erasing his legacy. They're letting go all of his stars. Meanwhile, if you look at the women's division, almost everybody has a picture of Triple H pointing to them. You look at the main roster, there's a decent number of people with Triple H and NXT sometime is pointing next to them. So you can bring people that are having a little bit of a lull. It's not their time. Bring them in NXT for a little while. Why not? Honestly, I think down the line, Shinsuke will be back in NXT. That's not a demotion. That's you utilizing him in a better way than you're using him now. They're playing around with a little bit of Tozawa, just for comedy purposes. But so that's, Dominic will drop it soon. And I now believe Wesley will be the one to take it off of him. But down the line, there'll be someone else that'll do a Dominic run. And that's a good thing. What's up, Rams fan? Is there a good chance Logan Paul holds the U.S. title until at least the Royal Rumble? No, I don't think so. I don't think until the Royal Rumble. John Cena is going to be heading back to Hollywood soon. So, you need another, big name, recognizable name, not just in the world of pro wrestling, just to give that little bit of oomph. Remember the challenge Logan Paul gave to Rey Mysterio 2 weeks ago? That was the highest rated part of SmackDown. When we did the SmackDown ratings, Logan Paul generates decent numbers. I mean, he's going to be around for the, I don't want to say foreseeable future, but no, he's not going to hold that until the Royal Rumble. He's going to be a lot more active than Roman Reigns is. And he's good. I don't follow him in social media. I don't like him personally, but I can't deny that the guy has taken to wrestling like no other. I mean, I look back in the 90s and I think of Mongo McMichael, and I think of even when WCW would randomly have some wrestlers. You even go back to, and I can't use the 70s and the 80s, for example, because the wrestling style was very, very bland and boring. So you cannot compare a Wahoo McDaniel to any wrestlers of today because it's unfair. At that time, the wrestling style was different, but Logan Paul is doing a great freaking job, man. I mean, he's not winging it. I think he keeps that title for a little while, but I don't see it all the way to the Royal Rumble. No, definitely don't. I'm not feeling that right now, but I think he will replace John Cena as far as that person with some social media name value. I mean, obviously Logan Paul's demo and Cena is a little bit different, but Jay Carlos with a 20 spot. Thank you, Jay Carlos. Very much appreciated. Much love. Great show, DT. Much love, my friend. Question. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I see a weird pattern with Tony Khan. Sometimes his behavior is weird. Is it only me, or is the guy not okay mentally? He's just immature. It's funny. I used the movie The Toy as an example of Tony Khan like 2 years ago. Now I hear multiple people using that analogy. Tony Khan is a big kid. Tony Khan is a big kid. He's got responsibilities. It's not just, like he doesn't know, how to run things. He's just a big kid with a crazy amount of money. And we have not seen something like that. I hear people like bringing up Herb Abrams. To me, he's like the billionaire version of Wrestlicious. I will never forget when Wrestlicious came around. And, that guy who won money, I think from a lottery or something, and he hired some women. He hired Jimmy Hart, and he wanted to be like this pimp in the show. And I will never say the 3 women's names, but I was friendly with 3 women that were on that company. You all could figure it out. And one showed me a picture of how much she got. And, I was like, oh my God. She's like, yup, that's what he's paying because he wants this so bad. And we knew that it was going to fail. And I'll never forget the people behind the scenes of Wrestlicious. And believe me, when Kevin and I bring back the DTK show archives, we're bringing back those Wrestlicious episodes. You will hear it in real time. Them confronting us saying, oh, this is bullshit. You're lying to this. And we ended up being right 100%. Tony Khan is the billionaire version of Wrestlicious. He is getting to fulfill his fantasy, and we're all using him. Us as wrestling fans, we are using Tony Khan to get some additional pro wrestling on TV. The problem is that Tony Khan has realized that, for him, Keith Lee versus Samoa Joe, oh my God, stop the presses. Honestly, like they'll hype it up like, oh my God, Emi Sakura versus Chris Statlander. Oh, dream match here, dream match there. For them, it is. The reason why he's got to sign WWE names, he's got to sign familiar names, is because the networks, he's not stupid. He knows those networks are not going to tolerate them tanking much further as far as ratings go. You tell me why Warner Media, other than them having some investment in AEW, you tell me why they would not just end up cutting their losses. For Tony Khan, he could generate $100 million, but pay $150 million. Warner Media ain't going for that shit. They're a publicly traded company. If AEW, if their investment starts tanking a little bit, why do you think they're going to keep them? Because they hate Vince McMahon? Like Warner Media is suddenly going to bend over backwards for AEW? Why? Really? Why? Because somebody's a wrestling fan there? If I'm an investor for Warner Media and I see a bad investment and they're keeping it going because one of the owners there is a wrestling fan, I'd say, go fuck yourself. So Tony Khan knows at the bottom line, he's got to generate some numbers. And he's falling into the WCW trap. And we called that 3+ years ago. Do you remember when I put Dixie Carter and I spelled it Kahter? That was almost 3 years ago. People now are talking about it because they can't hide anymore. It's too obvious. So now if they want to keep any credibility, they're forced to call it out a little bit. But they talk on both sides of their mouth. Tony Khan is just a big kid with billions of dollars, living out his dream, has to make certain decisions, whether he likes it or not, because he needs to have a network to play on, unless he buys Warner Media, which he's not, and, he's immature. He's immature. I put petulant child on my thumbnail, over 3 years ago? And, we saw it back then. He's a petulant child. He's a rich kid who loves wrestling. That's why I can't hate him. He loves wrestling. Seriously, like, how could you, knock the guy like he's giving us some wrestling on TV? If you hate him that much and if you hate the product that much, you don't watch. Plain and simple. But we're all using Tony Khan. Tony Khan wants everybody to love him. He wants everybody to love him. He wants to be the opposite of Vince McMahon. Yeah, ratings and attendance is down, but keep in mind, they're still generating some numbers. They're still generating some numbers. It's not like they've fallen off a cliff. They're in a little bit of a lull right now, and the way AEW turns it around is they can't have their shows and the storylines because based around what the wrestlers want or what the people behind the scenes want. You want to put Nick Wayne in a main event? Go ahead. Let him do it in your bedroom. You want to put Daniel Garcia with a title shot for MJF? That's fine, because Daniel Garcia has worked his ass off. We know what the outcome of the match is, but you know what? That's a nice little rub. See where Daniel Garcia is on the food chain with MJF. But some of the storylines that are on TV, it's just to please and entertain their fellow workers in the company. How many storylines do you see on TV on WWE that you feel that storyline is happening because the wrestler wants that storyline? Or do you think that the storylines are happening because WWE Creative wants that storyline? That's AEW's biggest problem. They have a lot of storylines that please that company, and then they think that because they all love it, that we should love it as well. And unfortunately for a lot of people, we don't. Oh, give Paul White a break. Paul White's going to be on one match. I can't criticize Paul White for being in that. It's one match. It's one match. He's going to be in a tag match. He's not going to do much. If he starts working regularly on TV, and it looks bad, then I'll criticize him. But come on. He's done so much in his pro wrestling career. Having a little nostalgia is not a big deal. It's not. I do not want Ric Flair back in the ring, though. And I don't think he's going to wrestle. I really don't. I think he will take bumps. I think they can't fucking wait to have him and Jay Lethal have some interaction again. You best damn believe it. The only problem is, you could try nostalgia as much as you want. Ric Flair now, when he talks, let's be honest, he sounds like he has a whole bunch of marbles in his mouth. He because of his teeth and his gums and, the way he's aged, he sounds like he's got a whole bunch of gobstoppers in his mouth. You imagine him having an interaction with Jay Lethal and they try to recreate that TNA stuff? It's going to be fucking awful. And the worst part about it is, even if they do it behind the scenes amongst AEW brass to see how it comes across, you think anybody behind the scenes get, oh, that was fucking awful. Oh no, don't put that. No, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. Jay Carlos, thank you very much for the $5 follow-up. Sometimes DT, the main reason why sometimes he doesn't watch AEW is they're fanboys. I'd be straight up with you, man. I will never not watch something because of goofs on social media. Sometimes I enjoy something 10 times more when I'm not on social media while I'm watching it. I watched Crown Jewel yesterday, and I saw the feedback afterwards. It was an average show. After thinking about it, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I thought for me, 7 is average. To me, that's average. But I look at social media afterwards, and there was a lot more criticism than I thought. I wasn't on social media as I was watching Crown Jewel yesterday. I had all my focus on the show, and I enjoyed it a little bit more because of that. I saw little things, and, it made me think about, I ignore the fanboys online. The problem that I have is when we have discussions and we try to have to clear up bullshit because of even podcasters and journalists who are fanboys, and then you got to try to like overcome that. And how many times have we had discussions and we are the ones that are out of the ordinary and all the fanboys are saying something different? Look at the CM Punk stuff. I know some of you don't like JD from New York, but JD from New York today said something that, I've been saying for 6 weeks, 7 weeks now, but he said it because he's got a bigger audience. It obviously gets seen by a lot more people, but he was 1,000% spot on. You see all of these reports today that CM Punk is scheduled to meet for this and this and that. Who the fuck do you think online truly talks to Phil Brooks or AJ Lee or his attorney or WWE management or Nick Khan or Ari Emanuel? They act like Vince McMahon still owns and runs WWE. Who do you think these journalists are rubbing elbows with in TKO Group Holdings that gets that information? Nobody. The only people that know the truth about CM Punk is WWE management, TKO Group Holdings, and CM Punk himself. No one else knows. Plain and simple. And the problem is you get 1,000 fanboys that'll report the same thing. And listen, how many of you out there are going to see all these Hall of Fame podcasters now, Hall of Fame wrestlers do podcasts, and you will see in the next 2-3 days, you will see blah, 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 comments on CM Punk to meet with or conference with WWE officials. Instead of just saying, these people don't have any fucking connections. Not the Hall of Famers, but they'll still comment on it because of this. All right. Ric Flair will never retire. Ric Flair, trust me, if Car Shield comes a calling and they want to do more warranty stuff with Ric Flair, trust me, he'll be sitting in that barber chair, Car Shield. Ric Flair will go wherever money is and exposure. He won't do it simply because he feels wanted still. He's got to make money. He makes money. He spends money. Ric Flair, I'm curious, and I hate saying this, but something tells me, unless there's a GoFundMe or a bunch of wrestlers put all the money together, when Ric Flair passes, Ric Flair would have pissed away so much money. I don't even think, do I have anything? This might be too expensive to put Ric Flair's ashes in. You think he's going to have this beautiful tune? You think, I put this money aside for when I get buried? Nah. You're like, fuck that, man. I'd rather just go out and party. Go to the restaurant. Buy all the ladies a drink. Woo! But that's Ric Flair. It's Ric Flair. Hey, that's how he wants to spend his money. He earns it. He spends it how he wants. All right, we're going to start bringing this home because we got a busy week coming up. Rocky Red, my thoughts on Fightful's report that NBA's next TV deal potentially having a significant effect on WWE and AEW's TV deals in 2024. He hopes NBA is back on NBC. Well, I did read Fightful's report, and they actually are correct that NBA does, that deal, it has a little influence on WWE's. But keep in mind that the NBA demographic, let me say it like this. When was the last time you saw anybody that covers NBA that gets a low rating and you see news reporters for NBA, podcasters, fans say, oh, the rating was low because Raw was on? Wrestling fans have been doing that for decades. When I was doing my hotlines in the 90s, I don't remember if Survivor was on in the 90s, but I remember fans online, oh, it was low because of Survivor. It was low because of this. It was low because of American Glad, whatever the fuck was on. But you never heard when the NFL drew a shit. Listen, when Raw was doing 5s and 6s, you never saw another TV show that was bombing in the ratings ever say, well, Raw was on last night. We had they never fucking did that. So NBA's audience is a lot different in WWE's audience. But when you work out a deal with Raw and SmackDown, you understand that basketball happens on a Monday. You understand that football happens on a Monday. You understand that baseball and hockey happens on a Monday. It's part of the negotiation process. Nothing is different this year or next year or last year or 10 years ago when it comes to WWE programming. All right. Yeah, I sent the baby shower gifts to Matt Riddle and Misha a little over a month ago. I actually have been invited to their baby shower in December. I don't know if I can go. I asked my wife, and I don't think we're going to be able to. I have a Christmas party to go to December 2nd, and I'm going away for 4 days, the week of Thanksgiving. So probably not going to be able to go in person. But yeah, I mean, I know the date that they're supposed to have their kid. I don't make that public because it's not my place. But it's happening in December. And, you look at Alexa Bliss and you look at Carmella and you look at others. There's going to be quite a few babies being born in the very near future. So not sure if it's Mohegan Sun yet. Maybe for a day. Might be for a day. Not sure yet. All right. C. Henry, have I heard that Billy Corgan might have cost his promotion a TV deal because he booked the segment with talent doing coke on a pay-per-view? C. Henry, I say this in a very sincere way. The only people that are reporting that are people who were offended or saw that and say, how could the CW network want to bring a wrestling promotion on when they simulated doing drugs? That's where that comes from. If I'm CW, I don't do any business with, how could you? It's, if you see a movie and a movie simulates somebody doing drugs, it's not appropriate. I didn't like the segment. I'm a big fan of Sinister Minister. I mean, I've been following him for decades. It was kind of funny, but, I didn't look at it and say, oh, listen, if anything, whoever streams their pay-per-views, they would be the first ones that would have been upset. The CW stuff is just people that saw that, thought it was so outrageous, and they assume that a network is not going to want to do business because of it. It's either they lost their TV deal or they still have it. There's they may have lost their TV deal. What do you think? That the network CW put Billy Corgan in timeout? Billy, you're on probation. For the next 2 months, we have to think about our deal. We need to see if we really want to continue. No, either, hey, Billy, the fuck out of here. Nah, we don't want to fucking do it. It's either they don't have the deal anymore or they do. There is no middle ground. This isn't just like timeout for your mom and your dad. We don't know how we're going to handle your punishment. That's the truth. All right. Xander, I really did not research the meaning behind Rhea Ripley's entrance in Saudi Arabia. To me, on the outside looking in, and I'm probably beyond way wrong with this, but I felt it was like simulating some type of I don't want to say a fictional character, but it gave me the vibe that it was a cosplay of somebody from a fictional story, almost like a superhero type. Like, I didn't think there was a religious aspect of it because honestly, I don't see Saudi Arabia fucking with religion in any way, shape, or form. That's how it came across to me. I thought the segment was cool. It went on a little bit longer than I expected it to, but I thought it was cool. And listen, the fact that Rhea Ripley is a woman and got that spot, that's pretty cool. But obviously it's not going to change society in Saudi Arabia. But to me, that's the vibe it came across, that maybe it was simulating like a fictional character or something. All right. Michael Gonzalez, do I think we get a Roman Reigns Jimmy Uso feud before WrestleMania? I think by WrestleMania, Roman Reigns is on his own. I think Roman Reigns is on his own. I think by then, Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso will have their Mania match. I think there'll be a little bit of a falling out with Solo Sikoa. And I think the storyline will almost come across that Roman cannot depend on the bloodline anymore. And that'll kind of suck because you'll always have those people who say, oh, Roman's reign would have ended a year and a half ago if it wasn't for bloodline interference. It's just like the morons today. Did you see all those goofs in the podcasting world? LA Knight really won. Huh? LA Knight really won. No. You're like, no, he didn't. Like, why would you even put that out there? Like, of course, there's going to be some morons going to come like, what happened? Ooh. Is this going to be a storyline on SmackDown? Are we going to get a replay and Nick Aldis going to do a rematch? No, we're going into Survivor Series now. I don't see Jimmy and Roman having a pay-per-view match, but I do see that by WrestleMania, Roman is by himself. And he will not have bloodline there for him anymore. Paul Heyman will be there, but no one else. All right. We're going to end this in about 10 minutes. So be prepared. Tristan with a funny question. Do I think Scott Steiner still hates the WWE Hall of Fame even after being inducted? No, I don't think so. I think he's a little bit upset of his brother for Rick for those comments about Giselle Shaw. You know, it is what it is. I mean, it was fucked up. I heard a little bit more about the apologetic side of things. And, you know, obviously, you know, when the person you're apologizing to doesn't accept the apology, like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was a messed up situation. But no, Scott Steiner, you know, trust me, he is advertising himself as a WWE Hall of Famer when he does autograph signings. This is not WWE from 20 years ago. And this is not the Scott Steiner of 20 years ago. You get older, you become more mortal. You know, the money starts to get low. You know, the popularity and the fame starts to go away. And there's an old saying that I always bring up. A lot of people want to say hello when it's time to say goodbye. And that's what happens between your Ric Flairs and your Scott Steiners and others. Now, because it's time to say goodbye, now they want to say hello to everybody. So, all right. Let's see. I want to answer a few people that have not been able to get a question in. AG thinks that LA Knight was Roman's weakest challenger by far. It came across that way during the match. I don't think so. I think that because LA Knight has not been, listen, it's unfair to compare him with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's been in WWE for many, 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 many years. LA Knight has, you know, been LA Knight for a year, you know, and he's only been pushed for, you know, X amount of months. So he should be looked at as not a strong opponent yet, because this is his introduction to the game. This is his introduction to main event, you know, headlining a premium live event. I thought he did fine yesterday. It's just the Roman Reigns title reign is so skewed now that anybody you put in that position, you're going to deal with the same outcome, the same situation. I thought he did fine yesterday. Theme parks with Johnny. Thank you, Johnny. He sends a 5-spot. He says he feels he may be the only person, but he truly enjoyed the Io versus Bianca and Roman versus LA Knight match. He feels the crowd was into Io and LA Knight was over. I enjoyed Roman versus LA Knight because I knew what we were going to get. We knew bloodline interference. We knew the victory would not be clean. It also kind of protects LA Knight. think about it. If Jimmy Uso didn't interfere yesterday, wouldn't that have been worse for LA Knight? Wouldn't people be saying today, wow, LA Knight lost clean? Like the fact that there's an asterisk kind of takes away LA Knight's loss. I liked the match because I knew what we were getting. Io Sky versus Bianca, I didn't feel it. Io is great. Bianca is great. You felt like there was going to be some interference at the end. I thought it was going to be Bayley more than anything else. I had no idea that Kairi Sane was going to return, but it fell flat. And you go back and you watch the replay, with the exception of Rhea Ripley, the women's match was mostly flat. With the exception of one or two moments, the Io Sky Bianca Belair match fell a little flat. For everyday wrestling fans, probably felt a little bit different, but for that live crowd, it felt like they weren't into it as much. But there weren't bad matches. Like I said yesterday, there wasn't a bad match on the card. It's just that a month from now, there's going to be quite a few matches we would have forgotten about. It'll be long forgotten. Zimpulse. Thank you for the 5 spots, Impulse. He appreciates the content. He thinks Roman will retain at Mania to become the longest champ of all time. Oh, he's got to pass, Hogan? He's got to pass Bruno. He's got to pass longest WWE champion of all time. Yeah, technically, isn't he? Because he's not WWF champion. Look, at this point, when they say 1,161 days, even if he were to retain at Mania, if we're frustrated now that WWE keeps using the same template with the bloodline interfering, how are you going to feel at Mania? I know this sounds a little bit drastic, but I think if Roman retained at Mania due to bloodline interference, I think fans would throw garbage in the ring. They're in Philly. I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to get arrested, but in Philly, if Roman retained, unless Cody Rhodes suddenly becomes public enemy number one, because Philly Northeast can be a little bit strange at times, who they cheer and who they don't. But, I truthfully believe that some people boo Roman Reigns, not because he's a heel, but because of how these matches keep turning out. Bloodline interference, bloodline interference, bloodline interference, bloodline interference. We're getting sick of it. So if Vince was head of creative still, I could see Vince possibly doing it. If Vince still owned WWE, I could possibly see that. Him trolling everyone, but as of right now, Cody's finishing that story. Look at the interview Cody just did, I think, with Chris Van Vliet. Cody just made a remark that what is happening right now, he envisioned it as a kid. You got to pay very close attention to these interviews because everything about, where this is going and how his father comes into play with these little nuances in this storyline, that's personal. And personal is more powerful than any title or any accolade that Cody Rhodes could get. That's why this story is being finished at WrestleMania 40. It's not just winning the title. It's not just finishing the story. It's personal. It's about his father, his legacy, what he envisioned, what his dad. And I know that may sound selfish, but no, it's too deep. It's too deep. You cannot. Nobody out there is going to buy this beyond 40. All right. 3 more questions and we're going to jet. B is asking, since Mania is in Philly, do I think the ECW alumni carry Heyman out on a rail? No. I could see Paul Heyman going into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think it's appropriate. Will we get more than one ECW alumni? I don't know. I know Tommy Dreamer really wants to go in, but I don't know if it happens in Philly. It'd be a nice gesture, but I just don't see WWE right now doing a video package for Tommy Dreamer. It's not a diss on Tommy Dreamer. I just, to me, there's a lot of other people from ECW that should go in before Tommy Dreamer, even though Tommy Dreamer is one of the most important people in ECW's history. But I think Paul Heyman goes in. Kevin Milwaukee, wouldn't it be ironic if John Cena's record was so bad this year that he doesn't even get listed on the next PWI? I don't think he should be in a PWI. I don't think he'll be in a PWI. I think you have to have at least, 10 matches? Cena's had a handful. I don't know if he's had 10. John Cena shouldn't be in a PWI. I even think John Cena would tell people, don't put me in a PWI. I'm not even remotely a part-time wrestler. John Cena, I don't expect in a PWI. I don't see that. Dreamer was the workhorse of ECW. Absolutely. I was a rabid fan from 1993 on. There's everything about ECW. Look, anybody ever wants to challenge me on ECW trivia, I'm ready. Give me about 2 hours just to get my mindset of what it was like back in the 90s. And, the only thing I don't like, I remember one time I played a Jeopardy with some podcaster. I can't remember his name. I think it was Julian. Good guy. And we did ECW trivia, and I was like, bring it on. And then they were like, oh, what was the main event of November 17th, 1994? And I'm like, huh? Are you fucking kidding me? No, that's not a trivia question. But I honestly, you give me 100 trivia questions for ECW, I guarantee I answer at least 95 of them right. In fact, you're welcome. Next week, next Sunday, you want to hit me with an ECW trivia question? You want to do a little research and get prepared, and next Sunday try to hit me with a question? I'll take that challenge. Anybody want to throw a question up right now? I would get at least 95 out of 100 right. I mean, but it can't be a really ridiculously stupid question. Like, how many times did Taz hold the FTW title? Come on. That's like a stat question, but all right. Rizzo, I just talked about Cody Rhodes and Chris Van Vliet. He said that Seth changed something in Hell in the Cell that he'll reveal one day. I don't know. Maybe it was the outcome. Maybe Seth was supposed to win Hell in the Cell. Didn't Cody win Hell in the Cell? Didn't Cody win all three against Seth? Maybe Seth was supposed to go over on that. Maybe Seth said, no, Cody should be the one winning this. I mean, I don't look too deep into that. I think because of the injury, I think, there's probably something there. But, if it was that big of a deal, I think it would have been revealed. Put it this way, now somebody will ask Seth Rollins about it. So we will get that answer. All right, 2 more, and we'll get a jet. Kevin with a comment, Roderick Strong is the weaselly manipulative heel with Neck Strong is some of the best work of his career. I'll be honest with you. I agree. Roderick Strong is really good in the ring, but, he was never strong with the character. Come on, when he was in Diamond Mind, we would have so much fun about, come on, guys. Like, remember when I said if Roddy Strong, if you were at 4:00 in the morning walking in the worst neighborhood in Los Angeles and Roderick Strong was walking down an alleyway and you bumped into him and he had a hoodie on and he's like, give me your money. And you said no. You'd be like, come on. Like, Roddy Strong is not very intimidating. Like, you'd seriously, like, if he met you in a dark alley, I think he would be the one crying. But he is good in his character. He's good in his character, and he doesn't even have to wrestle. So, all right, last one. Next to last one. Next DTKC, probably a week from Tuesday. I will probably do one the 14th of November and the 28th of 14th of November and the 21st of November. 21st of November, we're probably going to do Survivor Series predictions. And the 14th of November will probably be just a DTKC show discussion. Because we definitely want to talk about TNA returning in 2024, what we think that'll be. We'll talk about a few things, but yeah, probably at least the 21st, maybe the 14th also. And last, I'm looking. Who's the youngest ECW champion? Who is the oldest? Mikey Whipwreck, youngest ECW champion, oldest ECW champion. You know, I think somebody would say it's got to be Terry Funk. Because Jimmy Snuka, wait a minute. Whoa. Jimmy Snuka in 1985 was around 40-ish. So when he was ECW champion in 1992, he would still be about 50, 51. So Morocco was not older than Terry Funk. No, we're talking original ECW, not fucking WWE stuff. If you're going to say that, then I'll say Vince McMahon with the do-rag. No. We're talking old original ECW. We're not talking the WWE ECW stuff. No. Mikey Whipwreck is the youngest. Terry Funk is the oldest. So we could do a WWE ECW trivia one day, but no, we're talking that ECW, not, the new ECW. So, all right. I'm going to jet. Yeah, let's jet. So, Durag Vince was interesting. Was very interesting. It was weird. I know he was playing a character, or he thought he was playing his character, and that was just strange. It was strange. But let me tell you something. When they did the first ECW, that's always a trivia question. My former friend, good friend of mine, my former podcast host, co-host with me, is the name of a Trivia Pursuit question. Who is the first ever person to debut in the WWE version of ECW? And it was the Zombie. And when I was doing the Blackheart Sports Entertainment Hotline from 1999 to 2002, Timmy Arson was on with me. It was Timmy Arson, myself, Matt Zombie, and Brian Damage. If you ever saw that Blackheart's t-shirt, that's Arson. That's the ECW Zombie. So that's the only reason why I always have a lot of love for the WWE version of ECW. Because my friend, had a stint with it. And let me tell you something. I will put back online that Blackheart's hotline report from that night, because earlier in the day, when the first ECW episode was going to happen on WWE TV on Sci-Fi, my friend Timmy calls me up and says, get Matt on the phone, three-way. And it's me, Timmy, Matt, and I don't know if Brian Damage was on the phone as well. And he said, you have to watch ECW tonight. Whatever you do, you have to watch ECW. And when he came out there as the ECW Zombie, we almost cried. We did the hotline report that night, and, we almost cried. Like, our close friend was the first person ever to be on WWE's ECW. And it was fucking cool, man. That was cool. But I got a lot of personal stories with Timmy. I will never, ever forget how he gave me credit in interviews that he wanted to stop doing a zombie character on the indie circuit, and he wanted to go back to Timmy Arson. And I had a talk with him. And I told him, I said, be the friendly zombie. All the kids want to come up to you. They want to play with your nipples. They want to pull on your hair. Be the friendly zombie. And he actually did it. And he always gave me credit for it. That's why if you ever see the pictures of me and Timmy, you'll always see me going like this. You'll always see me going like this to him. Because I told him, I said, the little kids, they want to squeeze your nipples. They want to pull on your hair. They want to do this. And, he kept doing a zombie character and always gave me credit for it. And I always appreciated that. So I miss him. Timmy Calkins was a very good guy. Not the greatest driver in the world, but a good guy. Timmy was good. All right, everybody. I'm out of here. Much love. I hope you could join me Monday right after Raw. I will be up here as always. If not, we got Patreon on Tuesday, Wednesday night Dynamite. And then, like I said, I'm going to be putting the thread up this week. So for next week's Q&A. And if you're a member of our Patreon family, you could vote right now. What year do we start bringing back as far as DTKC show episodes go? There's a few years up there as a choice, and also Survivor Series memories. So maybe some of you prefer Survivor Series. So you got to vote on that in order, and you're going to decide what episodes everybody gets first. So much love, everyone. I'm out of here. Talk to you all soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.